able to continue in service. Then there were various relatives, such as 2 half-pay captains and 3 maiden aunts who had come on a visit a long time ago and showed no signs of leaving. Fiona loved her home. Having never lived anywhere else, apart from a brief childhood sojourn in an equally dilapidated house in Edinburgh, she saw no fault in it. She had been strictly brought up in her childhood, but now had more freedom than any young lady of her class usually enjoyed. She rode her shaggy Highland pony over the moors of her father's estate and through dark forests, so thick that the great gales of winter could not penetrate, and cried far above her head in the tops of the pines with a dismal moaning sound. The terror of invasion by Napoleon had spread even to this remote part of the country, and Fiona rode out with her father on field days to inspect their own regiment of Highlanders. She made a brave figure dressed in a tartan petticoat, red jacket, gaudily laced, and with the same style of bonnet ornamented with feathers as her father wore. Although the daughter of the house, she was still expected to help the servants with household chores, which is why, on a cold November afternoon, Fiona was down on her hands and knees on the floor of the banqueting hall, chalking out squares that would enable the dancers to keep in their sets. A ball to celebrate her 19th birthday was to be held there that very evening. She was looking forward to her birthday ball with the same mild pleasure she had looked forward to all the others. Dreams of romance still did not trouble her sleep. The young men who were coming to the ball she had known all her life and thought of as friends rather than as beaux. She coughed as she worked, for the great fire in the hall smoked abominably. But then it always did. Fiona sometimes wished her father would make some push to have the chimneys rebuilt, but she alone found the smoke a nuisance. Sir Edward and his staff considering peat smoke beneficial and a sure way of keeping diseases at bay, as if diseases were so many mosquitoes. Fiona finished chalking the floor just as the wheezing chime of an old grandfather clock in the darker recesses of the hall reminded her it was time to change into her party clothes. Snow was beginning to drift gently down outside as Fiona put on a white muslin gown, high-waisted in the latest manner. Sir Edward always made sure she wore the newest fashions, for he admired his daughter's beauty, although he and Lady Grant never told her so, feeling that compliments might make her vain. Fiona arranged her hair in a simple style, put on a thin necklace of coral, and drew on a pair of kid gloves that were wrinkled up to the elbow. She thought the gloves would surely have looked better had they been smooth, but Sir Edward had assured her that wrinkled gloves were all the crack. From down below, she could hear the groan of the bagpipes and the scrape of fiddles as the orchestra tuned up. She had spent a long time dressing, for her parents wanted her to make an appearance. She rose to her feet, shivering a little, for thin muslin was little protection against the icy draughts of Strathglass House, and made her way to the top of the staircase that led down to the banqueting hall. She stood for a moment, looking down at the assembled guests, envying the serving maids and tenants' wives their wool dresses, but not their bare feet. Only the ladies of the upper classes wore shoes. It was a motley assortment of guests gathered below under the smoke-blackened beams. Tenants and servants, keepers, shepherds, stalkers, and poor relations all mixed together happily without paying any attention to degrees of rank. On a small platform at the end stood Angus Robertson, fronting the orchestra. Angus was resident piper to the Grants, and would not do any manual work for fear of ruining his hands. Fiona started to descend the stairs, and then she froze. All at once she had a premonition that this